On the post-apocalyptic highway, a convoy fully armed from the Commonwealth is advancing, escorting armored vehicles moving slowly. Seated inside one of the armored vehicles are the Commonwealth leaders Lance and Pamela. Their destination on this journey is the Alexandria Safe Zone. In previous episodes, it was mentioned that Lance is a cunning individual with deep machinations. He set up Eugene in order to learn the address of the Alexandria Safe Zone and try to develop it into a subsidiary territory of the Commonwealth. Lance is aware that Pamela has little interest in these remote places, so he has specifically taken her on this trip for inspection. 2 hours later, they arrive at the Alexandria Safe Zone. With the assistance of the Commonwealth, the once dilapidated community has been largely restored. Aaron notices their arrival and immediately instructs workers to arrange items neatly. As if preparing for an inspection, Lance had previously informed Aaron about the visit of the Commonwealth's governor today, emphasizing the need for thorough preparation. Soon, the vehicles come to a stop. Daryl, too, has returned, opting not to wear armor to avoid seeming out of place. Pamela, upon disembarking, is somewhat surprised. This place doesn't seem as backward and desolate as she had imagined.
Hello there. Welcome.
Aaron. Pamela Milton. A pleasure.
Care for the grand tour?
I would expect nothing less.
Subsequently, Aaron takes on the role of a guide, leading them on a tour of the community and introducing its infrastructure one by one. Pamela is genuinely surprised that such a beautiful place could be constructed in such a remote location. She commends the creators for their remarkable talent. Aaron explains that the original owners of this place are no longer alive, and the expansion happened gradually over the years. After visiting the outside, they came to the inside of the house, where there is a photo of the first manager Deanna. But I didn't expect Pamela to know her. Before the apocalypse, Pamela had met Deanna during charitable activities. It's a magical twist of fate to reunite 15 years later under these circumstances. At this moment, sounds of alert soldiers outside reach them. Pamela goes to the window to observe, and Aaron and Lance are drawn to the commotion. Upon seeing the situation outside, they can't help but curse because a zombie is walking down the street.
How did you lose, Deanna?
She was bitten.
Pamela, who initially had some positive feelings about the place, now realizes that even basic safety is not guaranteed. The inspection of Alexandria's safe zone is deemed a failure. For their second stop, they head to Oceanside. Pamela feels a sense of relaxation by the sea. This place is indeed nice, and once incorporated into the Commonwealth, she thinks they can come here for a vacation every year. So, when Pamela talks to Rachel about how wonderful Oceanside is and expresses her happiness for them becoming partners with the Commonwealth, she thought it was a blessing.
We spoke to Maggie Reed, leader of Hilltop. She told us she's not partnered with you all.
We offered Hilltop the same agreement as with Alexandria, but Maggie declined.
However, Rachel continues, stating that the Hilltop and Maggie have been helping them, and they must respect them. If Maggie decides to cooperate with them, they will too. After being rejected, Pamela maintains a smiling facade, but Lance knows that the governor is extremely displeased. The convoy then continues forward, this time heading to the Hilltop. Because things aren't going well, Lance and Aaron blame each other for their mistakes. Lance felt particularly humiliated that he'd made repeated promises before coming here, and now this. Just as they argued, the carriage suddenly stopped. Something seemed to be happening up ahead, and everyone got off to observe. They saw people up ahead killing zombies, apparently survivors from nearby, dealing with about 7 or 8 zombies. The survivors' horses had also been startled and fled. Daryl hurried forward to help because he had recognized who they were. Indeed, it was Maggie and her group, out looking for supplies. Pamela, accompanied by her entourage, approached, looking at these brave and somewhat unkempt individuals.
You must be Maggie.
5 minutes later, Maggie used their water for a quick cleanup. It had been a long time since she had seen her 2 old friends.
Why do you trust these people?
Daryl responded, saying that no one believed in them, but many of them went to the Commonwealth, and they seemed to be living happily. However, he emphasized that they would always be a family. They then invited Maggie to join the Commonwealth. This time, Maggie fell silent because life at the Hilltop was indeed challenging now, but she needed to think it over. Half an hour later, they returned to the Hilltop. Pamela, with her soldiers, set up camp there. Maggie remained skeptical and observant, but Lydia and the others were pleasantly surprised. These people were indeed not just talk. They immediately began helping to reinforce the water tower and were very friendly. With these soldiers guarding, residents could finally get a good night's sleep. Maggie found herself considering whether joining the Commonwealth was a good idea. After a while, Lance approached Maggie and began the persuasion process. Just when Maggie was hesitating and thinking, the deep look in this man's eyes couldn't help but suspect that the zombies that were coming now were a plot on his part. Outside the walls, a batch of zombies started appearing, and soldiers were actively resisting. Maggie and her people also went out to kill zombies. Everyone had fought countless times in the apocalypse, and killing zombies was no longer a daunting task. They all felt that something was strange today. Usually, there wouldn't be so many zombies appearing together. Michael is also here, and he's not only big but also very agile as a commander. The zombies they had struggled to kill were effortlessly dealt with by these soldiers. After this incident, more residents wanted to go to the Commonwealth. After all, no one wanted to risk their lives every time the alarm sounded to go out and kill zombies. Diane and Lydia persuaded Maggie that they needed a secure environment, and these soldiers could bring them a sense of security. Maggie was almost ready to decide, but what happened next made her reconsider.
Let's go!
At Michael's command, soldiers started assembling, and Maggie watched nearby. Daryl didn't join the assembly but continued moving corpses with Cole. Michael walked over and said to Daryl,
"Remember, they're always watching. Got me?"
Yeah, I got it.
In this moment, Maggie saw Daryl's helplessness. Maggie felt a bit bitter. Perhaps joining the Commonwealth meant losing some freedom, so she had made up her mind.
But the Hilltop's going to pass on your offer.
Can I ask why?
Because, like you said, everything costs something.
After Maggie left, Pamela's face immediately darkened, and Lance felt deeply embarrassed. This inspection can be said to have gone very badly. They didn't want to linger any longer, they just wanted to leave quickly. Maggie and Daryl hugged goodbye, but what Maggie didn't expect was that the residents, one after another, followed the Commonwealth and left.
I'm leaving, Maggie. Some of the others are coming with me, and you should too.
Maggie didn't stop them but cautioned them not to trust strangers too much.
I respect the hell out of you, but I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry.
In this incident, Lance lost face. The reason Lance actively promoted this matter was simply to have the Commonwealth absorb these three communities. Then, these communities would undoubtedly need manpower to manage, allowing him to smoothly control a force. But now, the Hilltop and Oceanside had made him feel embarrassed. Feeling angry, Lance went into the woods to vent his feelings.
Lance. Lance, you okay?
A+.
Cole bent the bow, set an arrow, and aimed ahead. After assessing the zombies' positions, he adjusted the trajectory and gracefully shot an arrow, hitting the target with precision. Cole and his companion patrolled atop the wall, competing to see who could kill more zombies. Now, the Hilltop only had them and a few others following Maggie. The rest of the residents had joined Pamela to enjoy a better life at the Commonwealth a week ago. As they were chatting, Lydia arrived at the gate with luggage. She, too, was preparing to leave, leaving behind those enduring difficult days. Cole opened his mouth to say something but held back. After spending so much time together, he had developed feelings for Lydia. This time, it may be hard to see her again. Encouraged by his companion, Cole took a deep breath.
Need an escort?
Why?
It's a long walk, you know? Might get bored, that's all.
Lydia smiled radiantly, feeling a fondness for the brave young man. However, at that moment, Cole's expression turned serious because someone was approaching from a distance. Using binoculars, Cole observed and saw a person riding a horse heading towards them.
Nobody we know. Hold where you are! Hold! Or we will shoot!
Faced with their potential threat, the person showed no intention of stopping and continued approaching the gate. When the person reached them, they could see a young man of similar age sitting on the horse. His clothes and the horse were stained red with blood, indicating severe injuries. Lydia approached cautiously, weapon in hand. Upon reaching the young man, she confirmed that he had been shot. Using his last bit of strength, the young man handed something to Lydia and urged them to hurry to the rescue. The young man died after saying that. After what happened, Lydia was going to stay put for a while. They gathered to discuss what had happened. The young man had a map with a marked location. Judging from the situation, he had likely come seeking their help, and something had gone wrong at that location. Maggie thought they shouldn't go out, considering their own precarious situation. Moreover, they lacked enough manpower to confront unknown adversaries, and this might be a trap. But Lydia and the others think no one would risk their lives in a conspiracy. What if the young man was sent by someone we know to ask for help? Refusing to help someone in need was not their style. After discussing, they decided to set out. Finally, Maggie also came to terms with the decision. She wasn't heartless, she was just concerned that their journey might put everyone in danger, but since they had made up their minds, she would give them her full support.
You take over at the halfway mark.
They set out, following the direction marked on the map. On the road, Lydia asked Maggie why she refused help from the Commonwealth. Maggie patiently explained that even without them, they could sustain themselves. Lydia was more puzzled. At the hilltop, they were barely getting by, but at the Commonwealth, they could have a much better life. Maggie continued, saying that hardships were temporary, and what comes easily is not always good. Also, she questioned whether the Commonwealth, after over a decade without contact with the outside world, was genuinely more powerful than them. Actually, it's not Lydia's fault. Most ordinary people want a better life. Her own life had been full of wandering and turmoil, so she was eager for stability.
Do you agree?
With most of it, yeah.
Maggie's persistence wasn't wrong, and her integrity was admirable. Suddenly, 3 zombies appeared on the road, and they were from the Commonwealth. Things were getting stranger. They rushed forward with weapons. There were no signs of a fight nearby, indicating these 3 zombies had come from somewhere else. Upon inspection, one had its throat slit with a long knife, and the other 2 had arrows precisely shot into the gaps in their armor. The person who committed the murder is definitely a tough guy. Suddenly, a voice from afar caught their attention. Maggie took out binoculars and saw Aaron running towards them. Could it be that they were attacked? In fact, Aaron didn't know the deceased individuals. Encountering Maggie here was purely coincidental. The incident traced back to a week ago when Maggie rejected cooperation with the Commonwealth.
Everything costs something.
Pamela and others had to leave, and Aaron followed them to the Commonwealth. In the pre-apocalyptic world, Aaron worked for a civilian organization, and now he was assigned to a similar role, reviewing and admitting new people, helping those who roamed outside. He came to the church to find Gabriel because he faced a problem at work. The higher-ups discovered a friendly survivor group of about 40 people hiding in a difficult situation in an apartment near the border. As they were a religious group, the leaders wanted Gabriel to join in for easier communication. In the afternoon, they arrived at the location of the apartment. However, they could only observe from a distance as people near the windows were armed and vigilant. Aaron couldn't help but sigh. Weren't the higher-ups saying these were friendly survivors? This situation didn't look favorable. Having survived in the post-apocalyptic world for so long, Aaron and Gabriel understood people's attitudes towards strangers. They might be shot before getting close. However, Toby, the man in charge, didn't seem bothered. Living inside high walls for a long time, he didn't grasp the dangers of the outside world. He believed that if people inside were vigilant, it was merely fear. Toby ordered the troops to station here, preparing to take 3 people inside for communication. Gabriel immediately opposed the idea, stating that going in was no different from seeking death. But Toby, putting away his smile, said sternly, "I'm not discussing, I'm informing." The boy beside him nodded in agreement, thinking that the boss's approach was more assertive. Aaron and Gabriel had no choice but to reluctantly agree. Joining the Commonwealth meant obeying orders. They then moved through the woods, gradually approaching the apartment. The building's gate was tightly shut, and people by the windows were watching them.
My name is Aaron. We come from a community called the Commonwealth. We'd like to extend our friendship. We have more back at our camp, if you'd like. Is there anyone I could speak with, face to face?
After Aaron had finished speaking, there was silence for about 10 seconds before they heard a thud from inside. Soon after, the iron gate opened, and a bald woman with an earpiece and a scythe over her shoulder walked out. Just for this aura alone, he doesn't look like someone to be messed with.
Weapons.